I was the heir to a logistics empire. She was the granddaughter of a real estate tycoon. It was a business deal until the SEC froze my accounts. Now I'm broke, and I'm stuck in a tiny apartment with a wife who is princess-coded and has an escape clause in her prenup. The marriage was a merger. That's what was on paper. James was the heir to a logistics empire. Cecilia was the granddaughter of a real estate tycoon. Their grandfathers shook hands in a cigar lounge, and James and Cecilia were the collateral damage. They lived in a house that was too big for 2 people. It had 12 rooms. The air inside was always filtered, odorless, and silent. It was 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. Breakfast. The dining room was vast. The table was mahogany. The only sound was the aggressive clink of sterling silver hitting fine china. James sat at the head of the table. He was reading a report on shipping lanes. He wore a gray custom-tailored suit. He looked tired. Cecilia sat to his right. She was the definition of a princess. Petite, mixed race, sharp features cut from glass. Her dark hair was blown out to perfection. She was wearing a champagne-colored silk robe with ostrich feather cuffs. She pushed her plate away with a manicured finger. "The eggs are rubbery," she said. She didn't look at James. She looked at the floral centerpiece. James didn't look up. "They're poached, Cecilia. That's the texture." "They're rubber," she insisted. She shuddered. "And the room is freezing. Why is the thermostat set to morgue? It's 70 degrees. It's 68, she corrected. I can feel the difference. My pores are closing up." James sighed. He tapped his tablet. "I'll tell the staff to bump it up." "Don't tell them," she snapped. "Just do it. You're the master of the house, aren't you?" She stood up. The feathers on her cuffs trembled. She took a sip of coffee, grimaced, and set it down hard. Clatter. "And tell the driver he was 3 minutes late yesterday," she said. "I had to stand on the curb. The humidity was 80%. My hair almost frizzed. It was humiliating." James watched her go. She walked with a predatory rhythm, heels clicking, chin up. She was prickly. She was high maintenance. He checked his watch. He went to work. He didn't know that was the last normal morning of his life. The crash happened all at once. A forensic accounting audit. A hidden mountain of debt. A Ponzi scheme disguised as an investment arm. On Thursday, James was the CEO. On Friday, the SEC froze the accounts. On Monday, the board fired him. By Wednesday, the house was gone. The cars were gone. His trust funds were drained. James sat in his study. The lights were off. He was drinking scotch he didn't own anymore. The door opened. Cecilia walked in. She was wearing a white structured dress. She had oversized sunglasses on. She smelled of jasmine and expensive chemical peels. "Why is the gate open?" she asked. "Security is supposed to close it." James looked at her. He felt a heavy, dull ache. This was it. The moment she left. "There's no security," James said. His voice was gravel. Cecilia stopped. She tapped her sunglasses against her palm. "What?" "The company is gone," James said. "The accounts are frozen. The house is being seized on Friday. I have nothing, Cecilia. The liquid assets are barely enough for a rental deposit." He waited for the scream. He waited for the "I'm calling my father" speech. Cecilia stood there. She looked at the boxes he had packed. She walked over to the desk, her heels sinking into the rug. "So we're poor," she said. It was a statement of fact. "We aren't poor," James said, "but we aren't this. I have some savings, but it has to last. You have your trust. You can go back to your family. The contract has a clause for insolvency. You're free." Cecilia picked up a crystal paperweight. She rolled it in her palm. "My father is in Tuscany with his 3rd wife," she said. "She hates me. I'm not going there." "Cecilia," James said, "I'm serious. We have to be out in 2 days. I'm moving into a rental in Queens. It's a 1-bedroom. It's normal." She dropped the paperweight. "Thud." "Queens," she said. She tasted the word and spat it out. "Yes." She sighed. A long, dramatic exhalation. "Well," she said, inspecting a hangnail, "I hope it has a doorman, because I'm not ordering my own packages." James blinked. What? I said I need a doorman, she snapped. Are you deaf as well as bankrupt? Get up. If we're moving, you need to pack the china. You're terrible at wrapping fragile things. She turned and walked out. She was staying. The moving truck was a rental. James drove. The cab smelled like stale tobacco and diesel. The suspension was shot. Cecilia sat in the passenger seat in white linen pants. She refused to lift a box. We hit a bump on the BQE. Ow, Cecilia said. This truck is shaking my bones loose. Drive smoother. It's a U-Haul, Cecilia, James said. It smells like a locker room, she noted. She sprayed Chanel perfume into the vents. Stop, James coughed. Now it smells like flowers and sweat. They arrived at the apartment building. Brick facade. Small lobby. James parked. This is it? Cecilia asked. She lowered her sunglasses. This is it, James said. It looks beige, she said. Is that the aesthetic? Depression beige. She stepped out, sidestepping a piece of gum on the sidewalk. Well, unlock the door. I need to pee. James spent 4 hours hauling boxes. He sweat through his shirt. Cecilia sat on the velvet armchair. She directed him. That box goes left, she said. No, the other left. Watch the wall. You're scuffing the paint. Cecilia, James gasped. You could help. I am providing supervision, she said. If I lift that box, I will break a nail. Manicures cost $80. James collapsed on a mattress. It was on a simple metal frame. He was done. His body was vibrating with exhaustion. The room was dark. The streetlights from outside cast orange shadows on the walls. He felt the mattress dip. Cecilia crawled onto the bed. She was still wearing her white linen pants, but she had taken off her blouse, wearing just a silk camisole. She didn't sit away from him. She crawled right up to him. She lay down on her side and draped her arm over his chest. Her head rested on his shoulder. She smelled of expensive perfume and the stale air of the moving truck. You smell terrible, she whispered into his neck, like sweat and diesel. I know, James mumbled, too tired to move. Go sleep on the chair. No, she said. The chair is lumpy. She tightened her arm around him, her leg hooked over his. She pressed her small, warm body against his side, anchoring him to the cheap mattress. It's going to be fine, James, she whispered. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It was quiet. I lost everything, he said, staring at the ceiling. You lost the money, she corrected. She ran her fingers through his damp hair. You didn't lose your brain. You're annoying, and you're obsessive, and you're going to fix it. I know you will. How do you know? Because I don't bet on losing horses, she said. She kissed his jaw. A soft, lingering pressure. Now shut up and go to sleep. If you snore, I will smother you with a pillow. James closed his eyes. He felt the weight of her arm across his chest. For the first time all day, he could breathe. Life in the real world was a war of attrition. The apartment was clean, but the walls were thin. Cecilia hated it. She complained constantly. The dishwasher sounds like a jet engine, she yelled. The towels feel like sandpaper. My skin is revolting. But she didn't leave, and the dynamic in the small space shifted. They couldn't avoid each other anymore. One night, James woke up at 3 a.m. A panic attack. His chest was tight. He was doing math in his head. Rent, insurance, groceries. He sat up in bed, gasping for air. Cecilia woke up instantly. James, I can't, he wheezed. The numbers don't work. We're going to run out in 6 months. She sat up. She grabbed his face in both hands. Her palms were cool. Stop it, she ordered. Look at me. We're going to be homeless. We're not going to be homeless, she said. I have jewelry I haven't even appraised yet. I have 3 Birkins in the closet. That's 50 grand right there. We are fine. She pulled him down. She made him lay his head on her chest. She wrapped her arms around his head, stroking his hair. Breathe, she said. In. Out. You are not allowed to freak out at 3 a.m. It gives you wrinkles. James listened to her heartbeat. It was slow and steady. Just sleep, she whispered, kissing his forehead. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere. Then there was the food. Money was tight. James was eating turkey sandwiches. He looked gray. One night, the buzzer rang. Cecilia walked in with Nobu takeout. $200 worth of sashimi. Cecilia, we can't afford this. James said. Eat. She snapped. You look gaunt. It's embarrassing me. I can't be seen with a husband who looks like a Victorian orphan. She sat on his lap. Literally. She pushed the chair back, straddled his legs, and picked up a piece of tuna with chopsticks. Open, she said. Cecilia. She shoved the sushi into his mouth. Chew, she commanded. You need protein. You need omega-3s. If you pass out from malnutrition, I am not carrying you to the hospital. She fed him. She complained the whole time about the soy sauce packets, but she fed him until the container was empty. Then she rested her head on his shoulder and let him hold her waist. You're impossible, he said. I'm high maintenance, she corrected. There's a difference. Maintain me, James. Get your job back. A week later, James got an interview. He woke up at 6 a.m. His suit was hanging on the door. It was pressed perfectly. He walked into the living room. Cecilia was asleep on the armchair, the cheap iron shoved in the corner. She had a burn on her thumb. James walked over. He knelt by the chair. He kissed the burn on her thumb. She stirred. One eye opened. You look decent, she mumbled sleepily. The lapel is finally flat. Thank you, James whispered. Don't get sentimental, she said, closing her eye. I just didn't want you to look like a hobo. Go get the job. He kissed her cheek. I will. It was 3 months later. James was picking Cecilia up from lunch with her wealthy friends. He parked the rattling Honda Civic around the corner and walked up to the hedge, surrounding the patio. He heard them. Just divorce him, see? Bianca said. The contract is void. He's a loser now. A manager? Tragic. James froze. Come to Bali, Chloe said. Leave a note. Cut the dead weight. James waited for the knife. You want me to divorce him? Cecilia asked. Her voice was sharp. Cold. Yes. For your own good. So I should leave him, Cecilia said slowly. And let some other woman swoop in? What other woman? He's damaged goods. He's depreciated assets, Cecilia snapped. But he's James. He saved his father's company before the crash. He turned the Asian division into a gold mine. He earned his seat. He lost it because his father was a crook, not because he's incompetent. James stopped breathing. He's going to bounce back, Cecilia continued. Give him 2 years. He'll be running the company. Give him 5, he'll own it. Cecilia, you're delusional. No, I'm possessive, she said. Her voice was pure steel. He is mine. I broke him in. I put up with his terrible mother. I put up with this apartment. I ironed his suit at 3 in the morning with a blister on my thumb. I have put in the equity, Bianca. She slammed her glass down. I am not handing him over to some bimbo who waits until the hard part is over. I'm not cutting my losses right before the stock splits. That's what stupid people do. She paused. Her voice softened, becoming almost tender. He's an idiot, she said. He buys terrible ties. He forgets to eat unless I literally put the food in his mouth. But he's my idiot. And when he's back on top, I'm going to be the one standing next to him. James scrambled back to the car. His heart was hammering. She didn't stay because she was trapped. She stayed because he belonged to her. Cecilia got into the car 5 minutes later. She looked perfect. Sunglasses on. She slammed the door. Go, she said. Drive. If I spend 1 more minute with those harpies, I will commit a felony. James put the car in gear. He looked at her. She was checking her lipstick. How was lunch? Terrible, she said. Bianca looks like a parakeet. They are boring. Cecilia, James said. What? Watch the road. Do you think I'm going to bounce back? She froze. She turned her head slowly to look at him over her sunglasses. She looked offended. Obviously, she said. Why obviously? Because you're annoying, she said. You stay up all night color-coding spreadsheets. People like that always win eventually because they annoy the universe into submission. She turned back to the mirror. Don't let it go to your head. I heard you, James said. Silence. You were eavesdropping, she asked. I was waiting for you. You called me yours. I called you an idiot, she corrected. You said he's my idiot, James said. You sounded territorial. Cecilia sighed. She reached over the center console. She put her hand on the back of his neck, her fingers scratching lightly at his hairline. It was possessive, intimate. I hate losing things, she said softly. I lost my house. I lost my driver. I am not losing my husband just because the market dipped. I have put too much time into you, James. I don't like waste. She leaned over the console. She kissed his cheek, then his jaw. And you're good in bed, she whispered. That's hard to find. James laughed. Is that the only reason? It's the main reason, she lied. She squeezed his neck. Now drive. I want to go home and take a nap. The drive home took 20 minutes. The sun was setting. James looked over. Cecilia had fallen asleep. Her head was against the window. Her sunglasses had slipped down. She looked exhausted. She looked like a woman fighting a war in cream wool trousers. James reached over. He took her hand. It was small and cold. She stirred. She didn't pull away. Her fingers curled around his. Reflex. She squeezed his hand, sharp and tight, her nails digging into his palm. She pulled his hand into her lap, hugging it against her stomach. James looked at the road. He looked at the Honda dashboard. It was going to be hard, but he looked at the woman sleeping next to him. The woman who complained about the towels, but held him through panic attacks. The woman who fed him sushi and ironed his suits. I'll get you that closet, James whispered. Cecilia grunted in her sleep. She shifted, snuggling deeper into the seat, pressing his hand closer to her. Make it a walk-in, she mumbled, barely awake, and heated floors. James smiled. Deal.